These are the stories making the headlines at this hour. President Yoon highlighted the economic recovery this year, saying rebounding exports will drive the country's growth in 2024. The president once again emphasized fiscal soundness as he called for the swift execution of next year's budget. Former Justice Minister Han Dong-hoon is set to be inaugurated as the interim leader of the ruling People Power Party later today. This as the party is gearing up for a leadership overhaul ahead of the high-stakes general elections next April. Israeli attacks continued in Gaza on Monday, with some 250 Palestinians killed in a single day. While Israel's finance ministry is expecting the war to last another 2 months, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once again stressed eliminating Hamas as a prerequisite for peace. Good afternoon. President Yoon looked back on 2023, saying the economy took a turn upward and that improvement in exports will drive the country's growth next year. The president was speaking at a cabinet meeting on Tuesday at Seochon government complex, where he also said the nation's current account surplus is expected to be around $30 billion. Regarding the government's fiscal plan for 2024, recently passed in Parliament, he said it reflects the government's sound fiscal policy principle and called on the cabinet for a swift execution of the budget. He also re-emphasized his 3 major reform goals: labor, pension, and education, while saying reform for the medical system is also underway. Former Justice Minister Han Dong-hoon is set to be inaugurated as the interim leader of the ruling People Power Party later on Tuesday. The PPP announced that Han's inauguration ceremony is set for 3 p.m. at the party's headquarters in Yeouido. This follows an online national committee meeting to vote on appointing Han as the chief of the party's emergency steering committee. The ex-justice chief was nominated to be the party chairman following the resignation of former Representative Kim Ki-hyun due to a clash with the party's innovation committee on December 13th. Israeli attacks continued in Gaza on Monday, with some 250 Palestinians killed in a single day. While Israel's finance ministry is expecting the war to last another 2 months, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once again stressed eliminating Hamas as a prerequisite for peace. Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
Israel on Monday intensified its attack in Gaza, killing more than 100 people at the Maghazi refugee camp, with Palestinian authorities saying some 250 Palestinians have been killed over the past 24 hours. Christmas Eve in Gaza was also marred by heavy bombardments from the Israeli military in its continued fight against Hamas, which led to the leveling of buildings and injuries to over 500 people. With temperatures dropping and poor weather conditions, Palestinian refugees are struggling to keep themselves warm during the winter season. The New York Times reported on Sunday that frigid winter conditions combined with rain have left tents utterly useless, with many seen only with thin blankets to keep themselves warm. The Israeli Finance Ministry believes the armed conflict between its military and Hamas will last at least another 2 months. It said another $14 billion will be needed for security and other expenses for next year, meaning the near tripling of its budget deficit. However, the military's deputy budget commissioner raised the possibility that the conflict with the Palestinian militant group could stretch further, resulting in even more money being spent on the armed conflict. Meanwhile, according to the Wall Street Journal on Monday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said there are 3 prerequisites for peace: the elimination of Hamas, the demilitarization of Gaza, and the Palestinian society being de-radicalized. He said that in the process of achieving peace, Israel will continue to act in full compliance with international law. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Pope Francis delivered his Christmas message calling for peace on the Korean Peninsula and elsewhere in the world. He also extended his prayers to Gaza and Ukraine. Yoon reports.
On Christmas Day, from the main balcony of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, Pope Francis delivered his Urbi et Orbi blessing. Meaning to the city and the world, this annual speech typically offers a lament for all the misery in the world and this year's edition was no different. Specifically for the Korean Peninsula, he expressed hope for efforts to foster lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula through dialogue and reconciliation at a time of heightened tensions due to tough rhetoric and recent missile launches by North Korea.
May the day draw near when fraternal bonds will be consolidated on the Korean Peninsula by undertaking processes of dialogue and reconciliation capable of creating the conditions for lasting peace.
Pope Francis has, on various occasions, called for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Earlier this year, to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Korean Armistice Agreement, he sent a message calling on all Koreans to become prophets of peace. In his Urbi et Orbi blessing in 2018, he prayed that Christmas could consolidate the bonds of fraternity to unite the Korean Peninsula. For Israel and Palestine, Pope Francis prayed for the victims whose lives had been devastated by war and prayed for an end to the fueling of violence and hatred.
I plead for an end to the military operations with their appalling harvest of innocent civilian victims and call for a solution to the desperate humanitarian situation by an opening to the provision of humanitarian aid.
And for Ukraine, Pope Francis implored peace, calling on people to renew a spiritual and human closeness to feel what he referred to as the concrete reality of God's love. 이은진, Arirang News.
North Korea is set to hold a key party meeting this week as it wraps up the year 2023. The regime is expected to tout its spy satellite launch while reaffirming its strong stance against South Korea and the U.S. Park Gun-woo has more.
North Korea is expected to convene a key party meeting during this week to review policies for this year and set policy goals for 2024. That was reported back on December 1st by North Korea's state media, hinting that a plenary session of the Central Committee of the ruling Workers' Party will be held at the end of the month. The regime has this session at the end of each year, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's participation since 2019 to review that year's state policies and set goals for the upcoming year. According to some experts, it is expected that during the session, the North will reaffirm its tough stance against the U.S. and South Korea while seeking to strengthen ties with China and Russia. A North Korea specialist said hostile messages to some countries are possibly expected from Kim.
I see no indications that he will strike a reconciliatory tone with either South Korea or the United States.
He added that if Kim chooses to speak about international relations, he may speak about its strong allies, including Russia and China, in order to emphasize the regime as strong friends and is not alone against South Korea and the U.S. But the expert also said there's a possibility that the North might focus on domestic issues rather than discussing international relations. Experts also think the North could be unveiling plans to strengthen its military capabilities, including the next spy satellite launch timeline, after it successfully launched a satellite this year.
So we might see a launch, for example, around the birth dates of Kim Jong-il in February or Kim Il-sung in April.
But the expert noted there are several factors, including technical, atmospheric, and other considerations that affect the exact launch dates. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
The United Nations Refugee Agency has called on China to ensure human rights for North Korean refugees ahead of a UN review. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees posted a recommendation on Monday, saying it recommends that China ensures that all persons of all nationalities, including those from North Korea seeking asylum in China, have access to asylum procedures and are granted with humanitarian space. The recommendation comes amid reports of severe human rights abuses of North Korean defectors who are subject to human trafficking and forced repatriation to the North, where they could face harsh punishment. China is set to undergo a universal periodic review by the UN in January. Japan is seeking to turn to South Korea and the European Union into new export markets for scallops amid China's ongoing import ban on Japanese seafood products. According to Kyodo News on Monday, the Japanese government has established a policy to promote such exports. The export goal for 2025 is to reach 65.6 billion yen, or around $461 million. The South Korean market is expected to make up 6.3% of the total. Tokyo scallop exports were hit hard as Beijing banned seafood imports from Japan following the release of Fukushima wastewater in August. Last year, China accounted for nearly half of Japan's total scallop exports. Apples, pears, and mandarin oranges are fruits that are supposed to come with winter, but it seems like they come at a higher price this year, making some consumers turn away. Our Kim Do-yeon explains why.
It's not been easy for South Koreans to pick up their favorite fruits at grocery stores recently, with prices soaring.
We eat a lot of fruits, but I can't decide because they're too expensive.
In fact, strawberries are 20% more expensive than they were last December. Apples cost 21% more than last year, and mandarin oranges are up more than 10%. Experts say the climate is the biggest factor.
The temperatures were unusually low during the blossoming period. There was frost and hail with fungal disease during the harvests. The supply is lower than last year.
Due to the shortage in apples and pears, their prices are expected to remain high or even increase until the harvest season in July to August. As for strawberries and citrus fruits, since it is their peak shipping period, the prices are expected to decrease from their current level. However, their prices are still projected to remain slightly higher than last year.
Mandarin orange production isn't low, but because they're relatively cheaper than other fruits, consumers are turning to them instead, which is driving up the prices.
The government is tackling the situation with tax cuts on imported fruits like bananas, but it's not having a major effect due to reduced overseas shipments. However, more plans are in place to indirectly stabilize prices, including using 24.8 billion won or $19 million from this month's reserve funds to support discount events. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The South Korean movie December 12th, The Day has become the most viewed film released in Korea this year. According to the film distributor Plus M Entertainment, the movie has recorded 10.7 million viewers up to Monday. The movie starring Hwang Jung-min and Chung Woo-sung is based on December 12th military coup in 1979, which led to the establishment of South Korea's Fifth Republic. It is the second movie this year to hit the 10 million milestone after the roundup No Way Out, featuring Ma Dong-seok. Seoul's Bukchon and Seochon hanok villages are among the top highlights for tourists to the city. Now, without actually spending a night there, people can enjoy the beauty and warmth of a Korean traditional home at the new Public Hanok Lounges. Choi Soo-hyung was there.
Seoul is a place where tradition meets modernity. In Jongno-gu districts, Bukchon Hanok Village and Seochon Hanok Village, visitors can feel this distinct Korean vibe. And to allow visitors to see inside these traditional buildings, the villages have created Public Hanok Lounges. In the lounge of this traditional Korean house, you can experience how such a building is set up within the outer walls and also get information about tourist attractions nearby. While strolling through Bukchon Hanok Village, you can take a short break at Bukchon Lounge, which is open to the public for free. Even without an overnight stay, it allows visitors to explore the hidden interiors of hanoks and to experience the warmth of hanok life, enjoying a Korean-style tea ceremony with delightful conversations.
And so, to be honest, we just kind of walked in, just like we're walking in all the different hanoks in this area. And this was an amazing, tea ceremony and a great kind of concierge service.
I think we like to go with the flow a lot, and sometimes it's like when you go with the flow when you travel, then you get lucky to experience and having a very unique experience. Yeah. And I think like this was definitely something that we will remember in our, memories of Korea.
There is also a baggage storage service, and on Fridays, the lounges also offer a Korean language class. They are open from Tuesday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. While Bukchon Lounge introduces the tradition of hanoks, Seochon Lounge has a different charms, showing how hanoks can blend with modern lifestyles.
Here, not only Korean crafts but also Bauhaus-style furniture is on display, so people seem to be amazed and have fun thinking that, wow, the furniture can fit in a hanok like this way.
Visitors to Bukchon Lounge and Seochon Lounge can enjoy a delightful time sipping warm tea, experiencing the everyday life of Seoul's hanoks and learning about their values. Jeju, Arirang News.
Now heading over to Jeju Island. It's been a month since foreign workers have come to the island for a public seasonal working program, and both farms and the workers report high satisfaction. Jung has more.
A Vietnamese female worker harvests tangerines, quickly filling up the baskets. Once the baskets are filled, a male worker uses a cart to move them. The harvest of a 6,600 square meter tangerine field has been completed with the deployment of 4 foreign workers per day.
Without these Vietnamese workers, the labour issue is so severe that we'd have to give up farming. With previous foreign workers, they'd all gravitate towards the side offering more money, and there was a lot of hardship in working. But this year, we've managed our farming easily.
Introduced in November for the first time in the region, employees of the PFSW program are not directly employed by the farms. Instead, the National Agricultural Cooperative Federation, or Donghyeop, contracts the labor and assigns them to farms that apply for the program. The cooperative is responsible for overall operations, including providing shared accommodation for the workers and managing staff. After a month of operation, farms have reduced labor costs by up to 40,000 Korean won, or roughly $30 per person a day, alleviating a financial burden. Comparatively, the workers receive about 5 times more salary than in Vietnam and have shown high satisfaction as the program includes various support systems for adaptation, including activities related to hobbies and counseling. However, constructing exclusive accommodation for workers and securing management costs are necessary to expand the program.
Farms are requesting more labor, but it's difficult for us to accommodate and manage more than 50 workers ourselves. If the administration handles this, we could request even beyond 50 workers, up to 100.
The PFSW program is expanding nationwide from 23 locations this year to 70 next year. 3 locations in Jeju Island have applied. As the program has proven effective in coping with rural labor shortages, administrative and financial support is needed for its continuation. Jung, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In Russia, the imprisoned opposition politician Alexei Navalny has been tracked down and found at a penal colony north of the Arctic Circle. Navalny's whereabouts had been unknown for almost 3 weeks after he was transferred on December 6th from a previous prison. His spokesperson said that Navalny was found on the 25th of December and that he had been moved to IK3 penal colony in Karp in the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous District of Western Siberia, about 2,000 kilometers northeast of Moscow. Alexei Navalny has been considered one of Russian President Vladimir Putin's leading opponents and has been imprisoned since 2021. Navalny was expected to be transferred to a special regime colony after receiving an additional sentence of 19 years in August for charges including extremist activities, on top of the 11.5 years he was already serving. Turkey's defense ministry on Monday said that at least 26 Kurdish militants had been killed in strikes by its air force in Syria and northern Iraq. The attack followed the killing of 12 Turkish soldiers in northern Iraq on Saturday in a battle with the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces also announced on Monday that at least 8 civilians were killed in the strikes, including 2 women, in northeast Syria. Ankara's defense minister said on Sunday that 30 Kurdistan Workers' Party had been neutralized in northern Iraq following cross-border operations bringing the total number of PKK militants killed since the weekend to 56. The Kurdistan Workers' Party is designated a terrorist group by Turkey and the US and the European Union. On Sunday, British billionaire Jim Ratcliffe announced his acquisition of 25% of the English Premier League football club, Manchester United. The 71-year-old owner of petrochemical giant Ineos has paid around $1.3 billion for the 25% of the shares. That gives him control of football operations and a say in the commercial side of the club. But the American Glazer family will keep their majority stake. As part of the deal, Ratcliffe has agreed to provide around $300 million in infrastructure investment for United's Old Trafford Stadium. In China, Beijing has recorded its longest cold wave since records began in 1951. According to state-run media, one Beijing weather observatory said that since the temperature first dropped to below 0 degrees on December 11th, it remained so for more than 300 hours. Temperatures in the city frequently fell below -10 degrees Celsius this month, while in parts of China's north and northeast, temperatures as low as -40 degrees were recorded. Kim Seoul, Arirang News.
Hello, I'm Lee Ji-hyun with the latest weather updates. It's about time we got some relief from the bitter blast of cold air. I mean, it was just too cold last week with on and off snow. After much bearable morning temperatures, afternoon highs will also hover around norms today and for most of this week. Meanwhile, ultrafine dust levels will be high in many western parts of the country during the day, with a dry advisory in place for many of the east coast regions. Meanwhile, mountainous regions in Gangwon-do province are under a strong wind advisory, so extra fire precautionary measures are a must around this time. Daily highs should be 4 to 5 degrees higher in most places. Seoul topping out at 7 degrees, Daejeon at 9 degrees this afternoon under partly sunny skies. Then we can expect calmer weather for the New Year's holiday weekend. Temperatures should stay well above seasonal averages through New Year's Day, but air quality will be bad for most of this week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
It's going to be a busy year-end for South Korea's national football players who are getting into full Asian Cup mode starting today. Players from the K-League and international teams will kick off 6 days of training here in Seoul before they head to Abu Dhabi for a training camp. That is when Europe-based star players will join them, including Son Heung-min from Tottenham Hotspur, Wolverhampton Wanderers Hwang Hee-chan, and Kim Min-jae from Bayern Munich. The 26-man squad will be finalized on Thursday by head coach Jurgen Klinsmann, as South Korea aims for its first Asian Cup title in 64 years, the very pledge Klinsmann vowed as he took up his role. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.